New York City, 1925. A divorced woman in her 40s sits in a cramped studio apartment, paintbrush in hand, wondering if she'll make rent. Her name was Florence Scovel Shinn, and she was about to discover something the wealthy have hidden for centuries. She called it the game of life. Others called it occult knowledge. By the time she died, 15 years later, she'd transformed herself from struggling artist to prosperity teacher to the elite, and left behind 4 slim books that would create more millionaires than any business school. This is the story they don't tell you. The Baroness, who wrote her fortune into existence, and the occult wealth secrets she left behind. Florence Scovel was born into privilege in 1871, Philadelphia. Old money, society connections, the kind of life where comfort was guaranteed. She studied art at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. She had talent. She had potential. She married an artist named Everett Shinn, and then divorce in 1912. In an era when divorced women were social pariahs, when they lost everything: status, security, reputation. She moved to New York City to start over, but at 40-something years old, in a city that chewed up and spit out dreamers, work was scarce, money was scarce, hope was scarce. She illustrated children's books for pennies. She took whatever work she could find. But the bills kept coming, the landlord kept knocking, and the future looked darker every day. She was a woman alone in a brutal city, with nothing but her art, her pride, and a growing desperation that kept her awake at night. Imagine it. You had everything, then nothing. You're watching younger women succeed while you're invisible. Every door is closing. Every opportunity is for someone else. And that's when she saw a flyer for a lecture, not about art, not about business, about something called New Thought, about consciousness, about the power of mind over circumstance. She had nothing to lose, no other options, no other path. So she went to that lecture, and that single decision changed everything. What she heard that night wasn't religion. It wasn't positive thinking. It was something older, something the mystery schools had taught for millennia, something occult, which just means hidden. The teacher said, "Your thoughts create your reality. Your words are commands to the universe. Your subconscious mind is literal. It accepts what you tell it and makes it so." And Florence, with her artist's mind that saw patterns and structures, realized something. If this was true, if consciousness really did create reality, then there must be rules, laws, principles. If life was a game, then someone needed to write down the rules. Someone needed to figure out how to win. And Florence decided that someone was going to be her. The 1920s were wild in New York. Not just jazz and speakeasies. The metaphysical movement was exploding. Churches teaching that thought creates reality. Healers claiming mind could cure disease. Most of it was noise, charlatans and dreamers. But buried in there were real teachers, people who'd studied with the masters. Emma Curtis Hopkins, the Unity School, teachers who understood ancient wisdom. Florence became obsessed. She studied with everyone. She read everything. She tested every principle. Not as a believer, as a scientist. Does this work? Can this be proven? What are the actual laws? And her artist's mind started seeing the pattern. Life wasn't random. It wasn't chaos. It was structured, governed by invisible laws, as reliable as gravity. She realized life is a game. Every game has rules. Most people don't know the rules, so they stumble around losing. But if you learn the rules, you can win. Consistently, predictably. So she started writing, not as a guru, not as a teacher, as a mapmaker. Someone documenting the territory of consciousness so others wouldn't have to wander lost like she had. And she discovered 4 core principles that everything else built on. 4 occult secrets that the wealthy have always known but never advertise. First, your word is your wand. Second, you attract what you expect, not what you want. Third, there is infinite invisible supply. Fourth, intuition is divine guidance. Let's go deeper into each one. Your word is your wand. This was Florence's biggest breakthrough. Words aren't descriptive. They're creative. They're not reporting reality. They're building it. When you say, "I can't afford this," you're not stating a fact. You're giving a command to your subconscious mind. And here's what most people don't understand. Your subconscious is literal. It doesn't argue. It accepts and executes. Your subconscious hears, "I can't afford this," as an instruction. Make sure I can't afford this. Block opportunities. Create circumstances of lack. And it obeys perfectly every time. Florence taught her students to speak as if they already had what they wanted, not wishful thinking, as a command, a decree. I give thanks for my immediate endless supply. Not I hope, not I want. I give thanks. Present tense, already done. This isn't lying, it's programming. You're installing new software in your subconscious computer. She told a story about a student who affirmed for a beautiful apartment, but kept complaining about her cramped studio. Kept saying, "I'm stuck here." Guess what happened? She stayed stuck. It wasn't until she disciplined her speech, only affirming what she wanted, never complaining about what she had, that the perfect apartment appeared, below market rate, exactly what she'd decreed. Your word is your wand. Use it to create, not to destroy. This is the first occult secret. Here's what Florence understood that most people miss completely. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you expect. You can want $1 million with all your heart. You can visualize it, affirm it, work toward it. But if you expect struggle, if you expect things never work out for me, that expectation wins every single time, because your subconscious doesn't care about your conscious desires. It accepts your dominant expectation as an order. It says, "Okay, you expect struggle? Coming right up." This is why the wealthy stay wealthy. They expect wealth. It feels normal to them. They expect opportunities. They expect abundance. And guess what the universe delivers? Florence taught her students to examine their expectations ruthlessly. Not what they hoped for, what they actually expected. And then to reprogram those expectations through decree work, through assumption, through living from the wish fulfilled. She had a phrase: expectation is the womb of creation. Your expectation is where reality gestates. Change your expectation, change your life. This is the second occult secret. The third principle is the most mystical. There is infinite invisible supply. Abundance isn't scarce. Resources aren't limited. There's always enough, you just can't see it with physical eyes. Most people look at their bank account and say, "That's all there is." Florence said no. That's just what's visible. The invisible supply is infinite. Your job isn't to create wealth, it's to tap into what already exists. She taught that there's a substance, invisible, metaphysical, that responds to consciousness. When you align with abundance consciousness, you literally draw from this infinite supply into physical form. One of her students needed $500 immediately, impossible amount in the 1920s for a working woman. Florence told her, Affirm that your infinite supply now manifests. Within days, a forgotten inheritance surfaced. Exactly $500. This is how the wealthy think. They don't worry about where will the money come from. They know it will come. They expect the invisible to become visible. They trust the supply. Florence also taught the law of circulation. Money must flow. Hoarding blocks the supply. Giving opens the channel. The wealthy give freely because they know there's always more where that came from. Connect to the invisible supply through your consciousness. Feel it as real. Expect it to materialize. And watch what happens. This is the third occult secret. The fourth principle. Intuition is divine guidance. Florence called it intuitive leads. Those hunches, those nudges, those moments when you just know something without knowing why. Most people ignore these hits. That's just random. That doesn't make logical sense. But Florence taught that intuition is your subconscious, which is connected to infinite intelligence, giving you directions. She told countless stories. A woman felt pulled to take a different route home. Silly, she thought. But she followed the hunch, ran into someone who offered her the exact job she'd been affirming for. Same day. The wealthy follow their intuition religiously. That's their secret. They meditate. They listen. They act on hunches even when logic says no. Because they've learned, intuition is never wrong. Florence taught her students to distinguish fear from intuition. Fear contracts. It makes you small. Intuition expands. It feels right, even if it's uncomfortable. Learn to feel the difference. Listen to your intuitive leads. Follow them immediately. They're literally divine intelligence, guiding you to your good. This is the fourth occult secret. So what happened to Florence? She took these four principles, these occult secrets, and she applied them ruthlessly to her own life. She disciplined her speech. She shifted her expectations. She claimed her supply. She followed her intuition, and everything changed. The illustration work picked up. Then the teaching opportunities. Then the private clients, wealthy New Yorkers, who paid handsomely for her counsel on prosperity consciousness. In 1925, she published The Game of Life and How to Play It. It wasn't a bestseller. The elite don't advertise their secrets. But it became an underground phenomenon. Word of mouth, passed from hand to hand among those who understood. New York society women studied it like scripture. Business owners used it to build fortunes. Artists used it to manifest success. Because it worked, consistently, predictably. She wrote 3 more books. Your Word is Your Wand in 1928. The Secret Door to Success in 1940. And The Power of the Spoken Word, published after her death in 1945. By the 1930s, Florence Scovel Shinn was no longer the struggling illustrator, wondering if she'd make rent. She was a woman of means, a teacher whose students included some of New York's wealthiest families, a prosperity authority. She died in 1940, age 69, wealthy, fulfilled, knowing she'd cracked the code, knowing she'd left behind a map so others wouldn't have to wander lost like she had. And her books? They've never stopped selling, never stopped creating wealth. 100 years later, they're still transforming lives, still teaching the occult secrets, still showing people how to win the game. Here's the real secret. The wealthy still use this. They just don't tell you. While everyone else is looking for business strategies, they're doing decree work, expectancy work, subconscious reprogramming. Want to know why you've never heard this story in business school? Why prosperity consciousness isn't taught in economics classes? Because the elite don't want you to know. They teach their children these principles privately, in homes, in mentorships. Master your mind, master your words, master your expectations. But publicly, they talk about hard work and luck and being in the right place. Because if everyone knew that consciousness creates wealth, that expectation manifests reality, that there's infinite invisible supply, the game changes, the advantage disappears. So they let you think it's all external, capital, connections, education. And sure, those help. But the real wealth creation happens in consciousness first, always. Florence proved it. She lived it. This isn't the watered-down law of attraction you see on social media. This isn't vision boards and hoping. This is precision, metaphysical science. Laws as reliable as physics. Florence documented them, tested them, taught them. Your word is your wand. You attract what you expect. There is infinite supply. Intuition is guidance. These are the occult secrets, hidden in plain sight, in 4 slim books anyone can buy. But knowing and doing are different. Florence gave you the map. You still have to walk the path. Discipline your speech. Shift your expectations. Claim your supply. Follow your intuition. The game of life has rules. Florence wrote them down. Now you have to play. So how do you actually use Florence's teachings today? Not as theory, as practice. Here's your roadmap. Step 1. Choose one area of your finances to transform. Not everything. One thing. More income, specific amount. Debt freedom, new opportunity. Get specific. Write it down. Step 2. Create a decree. Present tense. Specific. Feeling. Not, I want to make more money. Try, I give thanks for my immediate and constant supply of $10,000 monthly. Feel the difference? Step 3. Speak it aloud. Morning and night. Your subconscious needs repetition. This isn't optional. This is how you install the program. Say it until you believe it. Then, keep saying it. Step 4. Watch for intuitive leads, hunches, nudges. I should call this person. I should take this route. I should check this website. Act immediately. Don't question. This is your guidance system. Step 5. Expect the result. Not hope, not wish. Expect. Feel it as already done. Live from that assumption. This is where most people fail. They affirm, but expect nothing. Expectation is everything. Track it. Journal daily. What did you decree? What intuition came? What action did you take? What shifted in consciousness? What appeared in reality? This isn't magic, it's cause and effect. Document the pattern. Give it 30 days, minimum. Florence said it takes time to reprogram the subconscious. Be patient. Be consistent. The results will come. They have to. It's law. And when the first manifestation happens, when the exact thing you decreed appears, you'll know this isn't coincidence, this isn't luck. This is consciousness creating reality. This is how you win the game. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote her fortune, literally. 4 books, hundreds of thousands of words, each one a decree, each one an instruction to the creative forces of consciousness. The game of life. Your word is your wand. The secret door to success. The power of the spoken word. The complete map. The occult knowledge. Everything you need to win. She died wealthy. She died fulfilled. She died knowing she'd cracked the code. Knowing she'd left a legacy that would create fortunes for generations. The game of life has rules. Florence wrote them down. Now you have them. The question is, will you play? Will you discipline your speech? Shift your expectations? Claim your supply? Follow your guidance? And create your reality? If Florence's story resonated with you, You need to hear what happened to Napoleon Hill between the drafts of Think and Grow Rich. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. This is Vine Wallet, where we uncover the wealth secrets they don't teach you.